Hello, and welcome to Fan/Fiction with Andrew/Zach. I am Andrew Gum.
I am Zach Dunsing.
And today we discuss what it means to be off-Broadway.
And I'll reveal two of the most powerful characters in the Shakespeareverse. That's a thing. I made it up, but it's a thing.
It is now.
What was your week like?
Oh, this week has been super crazy. For example, right now I'm recording on Lindsay, my wife Lindsay's computer, because I left mine with a student because I've just been running around like crazy.
That doesn't really explain anything.
Yeah. I'll Tarantino for a second.
Yeah.
So we're doing the 10-day film festival at our high school, and today was day 10. So everybody's supposed to be getting in their films. Nobody did it on time, so everybody's freaking out, and they're trying to airdrop it onto my computer. So I'm, meanwhile, running the play, which is our high school play that I'm directing, and trying to do that while my film students are rushing in after school, trying to make sure that they can get their film in on the deadline, which is why I just gave them my computer so they could airdrop it onto it so I could, continue working on the play.
I would never just give my computer to anyone, let alone a teenager.
Yeah, I see now that maybe that wasn't the best judgment considering I left it with them.
Yeah, not only did you give it to them, you forgot about it.
Yeah, which hopefully gives you some insight into my mental state at the time.
Hopefully it gives our audience some indication into your mental state.
At all times.
Most of the time.
Yeah, if they listen to me, they're probably picking up that it's not all is well all the time in the House of Gum. But yeah, so that was crazy, and the play's coming up, and the film festival has been jamming, so it's been a hectic period of time. How you doing?
Pretty good. Former student of mine is wanted by the police for a homicide.
Wow, that's terrible.
It is terrible. I didn't really. He wasn't. He came into he worked out of our space sometimes. He was a nice guy, but he wasn't really a student of mine. I didn't spend that much time with him.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was like a robbery scenario gone wrong, I think.
Oh man.
It was robbery scenario, so it was already not going great for the
yeah.
the victim, but it I guess escalated.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, hopefully all of it's a misunderstanding. No one is dead.
You're hoping that the cops misunderstand what being alive looks like?
Exactly. That's my hope. I just hope that it worked out better than people are anticipating. So
Also, the mayor of Nashville resigned.
For what?
She had an affair with her bodyguard?
Press secretary. Bodyguard. No. Okay.
With the basically the police officer who was responsible for guarding her. And that came out a little while ago, but it wasn't. People were kind of debating like whether it mattered or not. But essentially, she then pled guilty to felony theft for $10,000.
That's a twist ending.
Well, yeah, because I guess they did a lot of like trips or something. No one knows exactly what the $10,000 were for, but there is a couple of like overseas trips I think that they took, just the two of them, on the taxpayer's dime. So I think rather than drag this whole thing out, she resigned and pled guilty to that. She's on like probation now.
Oh my gosh. I also feel like if you're going to steal money, steal more than $10,000.
I know, that's the thing. She's on probation for 3 years and she has to pay back the $10,000. I could do that over the course of 3 years. Like that's...
Yeah, it's like eat out less for 3 years. That's maybe $10,000,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dumb way to throw away your whole life. I mean, unless the dude's super hot, in which case, get it.
Oh, he is not. He 100% is not. Yeah, I mean, they're both just like older people, They're not bad-looking people. They're just older. They're not bombshells, I'll be honest. But few politicians are.
Yeah, that's true. Other than Condoleezza Rice, I mean, we all had crushes on Condi back when we were in elementary school. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you won't shut up about her.
Yeah, I still won't. If you're listening, Condoleezza, I'm writing fan fiction of you and me in my heart right now. Yeah. So we're this week. I'm gonna go first because I have a little one. You're gonna go second because you've got a longer. I have
thing. Yeah, I've got a sprawl. It's not really one particular story, but it's like I went down a hole.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So mine also is a little bit non-conventional because it did not come from a traditional fan fiction site, but it is, in my estimation, a version of fan fiction. You can tell me if you agree that this qualifies as fan fiction, but I thought it was super cool. And surprise, surprise, it is Harry Potter related.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not, and I am sorry, but as I was researching for this week, I came across it and it was too cool. I had to share it.
Yeah, of course you came across it when the only thing you clearly ever search for is Harry Potter.
That is
it's like you stumbled across some Harry Potter fan fiction. It's obviously the only thing you ever look for.
I look for Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well, and there's just not as much good stuff. I need to keep looking. What I did come across was Puffs the Play. And I already gave it away with Harry Potter, but can you guess what it's about?
Some stupid thing with Hufflepuff?
That's correct. Lots of stupid things with Hufflepuffs. It is an off-Broadway play that is currently running that is all about what was happening to all the just sort of forgettable Hufflepuff characters during all 7 years of Harry Potter's like shit show of an education.
This is a play that's currently running.
This is currently running in New York right now. I'm open to its play homepage right now, and it says 7 increasingly eventful years at a certain school of magic and magic.
I thought that like by off-Broadway, maybe you meant like Phoenix, Arizona.
Like way
so off-Broadway.
So off-Broadway that it's actually something I made up and isn't real.
Right. It's way off Broadway.
Yeah, so I guess
it's
in that regard,
it's a figment of Andrew's imagination.
We're an off-Broadway play too, in that we're speaking and we're not on Broadway.
And this is a podcast.
Yeah. Well, we're keeping it loose. So yeah, it's running currently, and so everything I was reading about it, so that's why mine's going to be a little bit extra short this week, because I was unable to see it, but I saw interviews with the cast, I saw synopses of the plot, and then just reviews of it.
You were unable to see it? You didn't fly across the entire country to review this play for our podcast?
I know.
Our off-Broadway podcast?
I'm disappointed in myself as well, but I did not do that. Thanks for rubbing it in, Zach. But, yeah, so it looks really fun. It's being well reviewed. They're doing a Kickstarter to try to make it into a movie, which I think would be fun. Maybe not so fun that I will actually donate to it, but hopefully they will be successful.
I feel like they probably hit the highest watermark they could with making it a play. I don't think they should sink further resources into this.
Yeah,
but again, I haven't seen it, so.
It looks fun. So what they do is it's a story of the 7 years, and you've got all their characters, and they come out and do things. And apparently, this is building on some of the conversations we've had in the podcast. The saving grace, or the part that people really love, is they have super, super deep cut humor that is based on the books. So their whole thing that they're building on is kind of the conversation that we're having, right, about, does this thing stand on its own? Does this thing have its own legs independent of itself when it's building on a language that you already have as a fan of pre-existing franchise? Like if you love Harry Potter so much that you're willing to come out and see Puffs, then instantly you have a ton more buy-in. If it's only good, you're more likely to think of it as great because it's already building on a beloved,
because you're for some reason that much more invested. That's kind of, that's sort of the philosophy behind all fandom.
Yeah. That by, that this drawing of these two characters like kissing from two different fandoms, if you really love both of them, that drawing might only be okay, but you super, super love it because it's building on something that you love when you're looking at the Tumblr stuff that crosses over with fan fiction and all the art that comes out of it. So yeah, so that was kind of an interesting. Also, I don't know how they are allowed to do it. Because I guess it's technically satire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it would be, because that's the same. And what we might talk about this at some point as well. But that's how my friends who did Terminator the Second got away with it. It's all under sort of satire rules. They took the film Terminator 2 Judgment Day and translated all of the language into Shakespeare's language.
Which is so cool. I cannot even believe it. Like that was in the
except
early
that
days
by
of us
cool
being
you mean
friends.
like the dorkiest possible thing you could
That
do.
is exactly what I mean.
I know, right? That's what's amazing about it. So they put on a play where everybody. I mean, my best friend was in it. He played the Terminator, and then my other two friends put it together. It was like all Nashville people. It was super fun, and they had the whole thing almost entirely funded on Kickstarter because it hit. It was like that. It was the perfect sliver of that Venn diagram of like Shakespeare weirdos, sci-fi Terminator weirdos. Those people like show up in droves in the blogosphere, and they commit to Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, because it's like it
was so niche that it really found an audience.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're trying to start out as an artist, you need to be able to capture people's imagination somehow. You need to, if you aren't an established name, if they don't have any reason why they would want to, just pick up something that you wrote, then having something to leverage that they already like is a good way to make something. Now, it is a flagrant violation of copyright law.
Well, yeah, and it's that other thing of like, well, at the end of the day, though, like that. What's this art conversation we're having? Like, there is something purely creative about it that we always talk about. Like, the pure creative impulse is there, and that I think is the majority of what qualifies something as art. But at the same time, it's nothing without Shakespeare. It's nothing without the work Shakespeare did, and it's especially nothing without the work James Cameron did.
Oh, totally. Shakespeare is a hack compared to James Cameron.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, but yeah. So that space where you're doing a whole performance that would not exist if it were not an homage to something. In your case, an homage to two different things. Then I mean, that's exactly what fan fiction is in my mind as well. You're creating something new that would not exist if it weren't for this already existing intellectual property, and people are finding it and loving it. Like, it's getting really well reviewed on, like, Mashable did a thing for them.
Cool.
And the Off-Broadway Alliance Awards gave it the Best Unique Theatrical Experience, which is interesting. Laugh Out Loud Funny and Cry Out Loud Heartrending, says magicalmenagerie.com. And any Harry Potter fans visiting New York City absolutely must take in this place from Hypable. Exudes a jovial, winking fondness for all things Harry. The New York Times. God. I know.
All things Harry is a terrible phrase.
Why would the New York Times say that? You had to know what that sounds like, the New York Times.
You're the New York Times.
Yeah.
Which also, why are they covering something that takes place in Phoenix anyways?
Yeah, or in my imagination, because as I've already said, none of this is real. Look it up.
Well, didn't you read see that new column that they're doing? Andrew's Imagination?
Yeah. In the New York Times, don't look it up. That's a lie.
Are there any highlights from the play? Like, is there anything that you can... I mean, it's a play, so...
So I don't know anything specific, but I do know that they have improvisational scenes, and they like feature these characters, and they go through all their events, but then they'll bring people up on stage. So it's like a theater experience more than just a straight play that is perfectly scripted. So that's fun. And then they also do matinee performances once a week where they take everything. I imagine it gets a little bit blue because they do a version that's just for kids where
no one takes their clothes off.
I assume if they do, it's in a funny way and not in a Huffle lust. No, it's terrible.
So he huffed and he puffed and he blew
Brian. He blew Brian. He blew Colin Creevy. Maybe there was weed jokes because they're called puffs, but I don't know exactly. There didn't seem to be anything about it, but that seems like pretty low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
If you're
also, so does everything you've mentioned.
Yeah. That is an interesting thing that it's like when you're looking across a lot of the fan fiction that you find, a lot of it makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, that's an interesting story. The Hufflepuffs were the most underrepresented of the houses. That could be ripe ground for fan fiction. Like you can expand a lot there because all these events are happening and there's this huge empty space left in the canon of the fiction, so you can develop whatever you want there and you can make it funny and silly.
Is it empty space though? I mean, they cover the Wizarding Wars. Like,
yeah.
I don't really give a shit what those Hufflepuffs are doing in their spare time.
But enough people do that the New York Times called everything Harry or something. So
yeah.
So that was what I found this week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
it's just interesting always. It's always interesting to see what people choose to do with their time.
Yeah, like us, for example.
Like us.
Doing this.
With this podcast. This off-Broadway podcast.
Yeah, yeah. One day it'll be on Broadway if someone happens to be on Broadway Avenue while listening to this podcast.
In Nashville, Tennessee?
Yep.
Or at one of our 2 Broadway shoes outlet stores that we have here in lovely Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. I would hope that people would listen there while they're getting a fitting for their feet. So what'd you find this week? I
got to figure out kind of the best way to get into this. Although it's very appropriate that you came with a play. We didn't even plan that, but I'm glad you did because I also have a few plays.
No kidding. Look at this, huh? It's Kismet. Is it Kismet? I'm not sure if that's the right Yiddish word.
I don't do Yiddish.
Okay.
So the first one is written by VillainObsessedGir.
Cool.
And it's titled Oedipus Rex Final Fantasy VII.
You had me at Oedipus Rex Final Fantasy VII.
I'd hope so. So it's like, it's broken down. It's got a list of characters, which are essentially a bunch of crossovers between Oedipus and Final Fantasy VII. Would you like to explain the story of Oedipus real quick?
Yeah, I'd love to. So in the story of Oedipus Rex, there is a prophecy that says that the son of the king will kill his father and marry his mother, and the entire nation is going to crumble because of that.
Mm-hmm. And because of a set of circumstances.
Yeah. And so the king goes out to the desert, decides he's going to keep this prophecy from happening, pierces the ankles of his infant son, leaves him to die in the desert. Long story short, he survives and unwittingly makes all those things come true. Kills his dad, just as like he's going by and makes him angry.
He kills his dad in at a road crossing.
Yeah.
So they get into a scuffle, and then he goes back to the kingdom. He marries his mom. He blinds himself when he finds out.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the term Oedipal complex comes from.
Yeah,
it's
when you have the hots for your mom, that's an Oedipus complex, but it's based on a Greek myth.
Tragedy.
Greek
play.
Not myth. Tragedy. Yes. Written by Sophocles? Anyway, continue.
Can't remember.
Aristophanes.
Yes. So basically, this is that. So we have a cast of characters. Oedipus Rex is played by Cloud Strife, who's the main character from Final Fantasy VII.
The video game on PlayStation.
The video game, PlayStation 1, probably one of my favorite video games of all time. Oedipus Rex / Cloud Strife is played by Brandon Harris. Jocasta, Oedipus's mother, / Aerith, which is Cloud Strife's girlfriend, played by Brittany Walker. So I think this was actually something that a person wrote for their high school and was performed.
That is super awesome and
pretty dope. Also, this was published in 2012.
Okay.
Which is 14 years after Final Fantasy VII came out. And how many thousands of years after Oedipus Rex came out?
Like at least 2.
Yeah, at least 2. That's as much as I know about history. So essentially so that's kind of like where the Oedipus part of it stops. They're named for the characters, and the main character from Final Fantasy VII marries his girlfriend from Final Fantasy VII, but they're also both the 2 main characters from Oedipus, which are mother son.
Gotcha.
So that sort of plays out how you would expect it. All the characters are just sort of talking about the events. The idea of it is bonkers to me, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because the whole thing is basically through the perspective of Rude and Reno. Did you play Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
Do you remember Rude and Reno?
No.
Exactly. So they're these 2 characters that pop up like periodically. Like they kind of work for the bad guys, but they also kind of spend time with the good guys. They just sort of, they're 2 side characters. They don't really do anything. They just sort of pop up around big events that are going on.
They sound like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern from Hamlet.
I was really hoping you would say that.
Really? Great. Yeah, because they do.
Yes.
They sound like they're kind of good guys, kind of bad guys, kind of have relationships with both sides.
Yes. So it's the whole story the whole story basically through their perspective. They're talking about how they found this child out there, and then they brought him home, and he ended up being the Kingslayer and marrying his mom and all that. Basically, it's all through their perspective.
Sweet.
So, do you want to explain who Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are?
Sure. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are 2 childhood friends of Hamlet in the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare. They are brought in to try to cheer up Hamlet and then made to unwittingly take Hamlet to be executed by the King of England. Hamlet finds the letter that means that he's going to be killed by the King of England, changes it so it's not him that's going to be killed, it's going to be Rosencrantz and Guildenstern that are killed instead, gets off the boat during a pirate scuffle, goes back, and then kills his uncle and dies. But Rosencrantz and Guildenstern never were trying to hurt anybody. They just got caught in the middle of a very bad situation.
Lovely. Now, do you want to explain Tom Stoppard's play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
Yes, I would. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead is a play by Tom Stoppard, which follows all the events of Hamlet from the perspective of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, which sounds very similar to what you're talking about with
and they
Rude
sort of
and Rowdy?
Reno and Rude and Reno.
Rude and Reno.
Yes.
Where you get to see all of these events of the play from an outsider's perspective. And
they sort of inadvertently cause all of the major events of the play. They sort of bumblishly in a very Randall style cause.
Randall. It should have been Randallcrantz and
Randall.
That one really got me. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, that does sound very similar.
Yes, so it is, right? So they inadvertently cause all the major major events of Hamlet by just fumbling around. It's also, Tom Stoppard, I didn't realize, co-wrote the Terry Gilliam film Brazil, which is one of my favorite films of all time. Makes sense. I mean, he's a genius, but
yeah.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead also gets compared to Waiting for Godot a lot. It's a very similar thing. These 2 sort of bumbling characters that are kind of wandering through the world, experiencing it.
Yeah, because also both are they're supposed to be funny, but the worldview is like pitch black.
Totally, yeah.
Like in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, the characters Rosencrantz and Guildenstern die off stage in Hamlet.
Yes.
And like they're getting ready to just like disappear. They know they're going to die, but they don't know how because it never really says it in the play. And then they're just gone. And then it's over.
Right.
So, yeah. It's pretty intense.
So the Oedipus thing led me to Rude and Reno, which made me think of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which led me to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Undead.
Oh.
This is written by Meaganmadeafunny in 2013.
That's a real... Oh, that's real?
Yeah.
That's the best!
This is a story I'm reading in the podcast we're doing right now.
So this Broadway. Is happening too? Oh.
We are recording it right now.
This is all very exciting. Continue.
Good. So, just wait, man. So this one is written. This one has it has stage direction. It's written like a short play, and I'm assuming, honestly, this is another person's high school project, because that's when I read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Undead in high school. So I'm assuming it was like a, like an AP English assignment that they ran with. So it opens with Guildenstern going, and then Rosencrantz saying, "Guildenstern, are we dead?" I don't know. Why? Do you feel dead? Well, no, but what does it feel like to be dead? How should I know? Where are we? Do you hear that? Hear what? A crash. That. What? You idiot. That rustling noise. What? Never mind. Hey, there's a door over there.
This is exactly Rosencrantz and Guildenstern
Absolutely.
Are Dead. So in case you haven't read that play, there's a whole scene where they're in the dark in the ship, and it's that exact thing, like bumbling around.
Exactly.
The nature of reality, and it's very absurd.
It's very existential. I mean, the same with Waiting for Godot. It's a very existential sort of comedy of errors type thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read this little excerpt of Guildenstern. Rosencrantz, what's wrong with your face? What? What's wrong with your face? My face? Yes, your face. Unless, of course, your face is also my face, which would mean that I am also you as well as me, and you are also me as well as you. Therefore, we are the same person with the same face. Unless I was hallucinating, then you would just be a hallucination, which would make me a hallucination. And hallucination cannot hallucinate oneself because hallucinations are incapable of hallucinating hallucinations. Therefore, we must be twins.
Yep. That's perfect. Right. Yeah. That's just
so spot on.
Yep.
So it's very apropos. It's pretty on point with Tom Stoppard's play, and they go back and forth, and they sort of have this continual sort of funny back and forth dialogue until they run into a bunch of people who are also undead.
Are they the people that die at the end of Hamlet?
Presumably, but it's not actually specific about that.
Okay.
Because nobody talks except for them. They just run into other people who are chasing, basically a mob of shuffling zombies who are chasing down some live people. Those live people shoot back, and eventually Rosencrantz realizes that he's really hungry, and he can't remember when they ate last. So then he starts to go after the woman to eat her brains. Great. And Guildenstern's like, "What are you doing? We don't eat people." And he's like, "I don't know. We ever tried it or whatever." And so they chase him down, and then they both get shot and put down by the person they're chasing. And then the last two lines of the play are Guildenstern. Rosencrantz. Guildenstern. Are we dead?
Oh, that's great. That's great.
It's pretty great, right?
I love that. And this whole thing is making me think, too, of William Shakespeare's Star Wars. Did you ever read that?
Hold that thought for a second.
Okay. But yeah, that sounds perfect. That's a loving homage to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is a loving homage to Hamlet. And it sounds like the Rude and Reno?
Yes,
Rude and Reno was an homage to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
Absolutely.
And Final Fantasy and Oedipus Rex. So
absolutely.
Just homages galore today.
Yeah, it's just a Russian nesting doll of homages.
It's just called an homage. That's not a great Russian. Anyway, continue.
Okay. It was slightly as good as your Yiddish.
Yeah, well, I'm kaput.
Okay, so when you said Shakespeare's Star Wars, are you referring to Tag and Bink are dead?
No.
Okay, explain to me your thing first.
Okay, so my thing is a full-length play about the same length as, Hamlet. It's long. It is a full-length play, and it is a mashup. It's all in iambic pentameter, and it is A New Hope, and it is excellent. Whoa. And it is written and they're just densely packed with Shakespeare references and Star Wars references and good in-jokes, and it plays with all of Shakespeare's tropes that he put into all of his plays while telling the story of A New Hope. And it is excellent. And we almost did it in Nashville, but then I moved from Nashville. We were gearing up to do it with the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. My friends out there that still work there, we did a reading. We were trying to figure out how to do it. and then I left, and I don't know if they ever did it, but I didn't do it.
I don't know. Assuming if they had, I would have heard about it.
Yeah.
But I also sort of dropped off paying attention to the Nashville Shakespeare Theater scene once you moved.
Yeah.
Because you were the most radiant of pucks.
Thank you. It was very small. That's all I had going for me. But thank you.
Radiant.
Thanks. That's kind.
So.
Okay, so what's tag and who?
Okay, so this whole rabbit hole led me to something that I had been a little bit familiar with before, but I really was worth the deeper dive. But it's called Tag and Bink are Dead.
Okay.
It was written by Kevin Rubio. It's a very short series of comics set in the Star Wars universe, put out by Dark Horse, I believe. That is an homage to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead.
Dude, you are killing it with the connective tissue between your stories. Well done.
It's just there, man. It's just there. So Tag and Bink are two rebel there's two rebel soldiers. Mm-hmm. And they're so the premise of Tag and Bink are Dead, there's I think 3 volumes of it more now, one for each movie essentially.
Okay.
And they are they're Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So they're these two side characters who show up, inadvertently cause all the loopholes in Star Wars. Like all the stuff that doesn't add up, they're responsible for.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. So like Tag and Bink, they show up on the ship at the beginning of A New Hope, the one that's being chased, that like I think it's a Corellian cruiser, but the rebel ship. Mm-hmm. So they're on that ship. They're trying to hide from Darth Vader and the soldiers, and I think like that scene where R2-D2 or C-3PO makes a bunch of noise and draws the soldiers towards them, like it reveals Tag and Bink's position. So then they get captured onto the ship, and they have to basically impersonate stormtroopers on the Death Star. So essentially, like they impersonate stormtroopers, and then they steal a couple of TIE fighters, or maybe one TIE fighter, I can't remember, and escape the Death Star to Yavin 4 right before it's destroyed by the Death Star. Wait, is that Yavin? Dantooine.
Wait, the planet that gets blown up is Alderaan.
Alderaan, yeah, of course it's Alderaan. Yeah, sorry. So they dress up as stormtroopers and then try to escape, and they're the TIE fighter that's flying around in the rubble of Alderaan that the Millennium Falcon runs into contact with. So like there's a whole thing of like, why is this TIE fighter so far away from the Death Star? Like, what's it doing in this freshly minted asteroid belt that is the rubble of Alderaan? It's these two guys trying to escape, right?
Oh, wait, but isn't that an enemy TIE fighter in the movie?
Yeah, well, they shoot at them and then they end up just chasing it back to the Death Star. Oh. So the idea is that like they've escaped and then they run into the Millennium Falcon and then they head back to.
Oh, that's a good recognition of why would there be a TIE fighter out there? It doesn't make a lot like what's it looking
well, it's
for?
Just like all that's the theme, is that like all that stuff that doesn't really add up, it's like it's these two fumbling Randalls are doing it, right?
Great.
So
which is what like I will call people from now on. You fumbling Randall.
So like the two guys that are supposed to be guarding the tractor beam controls and are just like talking about whatever speeder bike or whatever they're talking about, that's Tag and Bink.
Great. Okay.
They again try to escape, and they're the two TIE fighters that actually inadvertently, this is all in A New Hope. So like they're the ones that accidentally get in Darth Vader's way when he's trying to shoot down Luke in the trench run.
I don't recall that, but I'm sure it's real, and I'm sure it's there.
Well, he's got a couple TIE fighters that are like flanking him, and then Han Solo comes in, shoots one of those, and it knocks Darth Vader's TIE fighter, and he spins out from the trench run. But it's like, so in the comic book, it's like it's because they blundered again that they cause him to not be able to shoot down.
Yeah, that's when he spins away but still survives. Because Darth Vader doesn't get shot down, he gets bumped into, and then like
it's all stuff like that. Like through just a series of fumbling misadventures, they're the two guys who end up shooting C-3PO in Cloud City, blasting him to pieces in that scene that takes place off camera. Okay, so it's like all the stuff that like there's a whole thing of like, where is Chewie's medal at the end of A New Hope?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why did Chewie get a medal? No. They they steal the Tidarian, which is that 3 sort of winged officer vessel that is used in the Empire or in Return of the Jedi, the one that they used to sneak onto Endor.
Okay.
So they steal that after the first Death Star is destroyed. They steal that to escape the first Death Star, and then they fly it to Yavin 4, where the Rebel base is, and they show up late to the party, and they find Chewie's medal just like sitting on the floor.
Oh, so basically these guys just are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they keep stealing ships.
Yeah, basically, they keep stealing ships. You know that scene where, what is her name? Mon Mothma? Or whatever is like... They're talking, it's in Return of the Jedi, they're talking about where they got the blueprints from for the new Death Star. And she's like, many Bothans died to receive this data.
Right.
Or whatever.
Which,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Because when I was watching Rogue One, I was expecting to see the many Bothans. Who are the Bothans? How did they die?
Well, in Tag and Bink, it's just a guy named Manny.
No.
Manny Bothans.
Manny
and
Bothans.
He gets the plans to them and then inadvertently like gets killed.
That is such a good joke, Manny.
It really
Bothans.
is. It's like there's like a little panel of him just being like, "Hey, Manny Bothan's at your service."
That's great. That's great.
So it's great. So just like, I mean, you get the idea. There's just a couple of highlights. Like essentially, they're also the two Imperial guards that watch Luke and the Emperor fight. Oh. That's why they don't do anything. They're just like hanging out watching. But then so they end up dying on the second Death Star, and then in the final scene of Return of the Jedi, they're also ghosts. They're just slightly out of frame.
Oh, that's so good.
So because when they do go through, so there's Tag and Bink Are Dead and Tag and Bink Revenge of the Clone Menace.
Okay. I'm into
which
that.
Is all the prequels, and essentially they were also in Jedi training, but were really shitty at it. Like they were also Padawans, so
they're just terrible.
Yeah, they're really bad at it. They blunder everything.
Padawans, nailed it.
Nice, nailed it. But they're also friends with Anakin, so like they're the people who are feeding Anakin all the shitty lines that he tries to woo Padme with.
Oh, that's
on
so
Naboo
good.
In the second one. Yeah, like a la Cyrano de Bergerac as well,
yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. So they're the ones that are like, you should talk about sand. Just talk about how you don't like sand. She'll be into that. Like they're the reason why he comes off so stiff is because
that's great.
These two idiots are feeding him the lines. Yeah, it's great. So that's kind of like that's it. You get the idea. Like they're really fun companion pieces to the Star Wars octonology.
Yeah.
At this point.
Which I kind of feel is the same about Rogue One. Rogue One feels like a perfect fan film.
Rogue One is a fan film. Arguably so is The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just a retelling of A New Hope. The thing is that I'm surprised by is in Rogue One, they reveal that flaw in the Death Star was an intentionally placed thing so that you could destroy the Death Star with the single shot, which is great.
It recontextualized a plot hole.
Yeah, exactly, which is really good. You've sealed a plot hole 30 years later, but then
no one knew you could do that.
Yeah, I know. And then you did it. Good job, Rogue One. But then you see in Force Awakens the same plot hole. You just got to go down to that like reactor area and blow a bunch of shit up in there, and then the whole planet goes. It's still. I
believe that was it was an energy modulator, or
right?
What it.
Like it's the whatever hole you got to shoot a torpedo into to blow up the whole planet.
Sounds like my ex-wife.
Seriously, Cheryl.
Okay, so. So the last thing I have to say about this is that Ron Howard posted a tweet the other day announcing Tag and Bink were going to be in the Solo movie.
Really?
So he basically, in this one tweet, made them canon.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah. So these two guys are playing Tag and Bink. I don't know who's playing who, but one of them is John Kasdan.
Don't know who that is.
You do know who that is, actually. He co-wrote Solo, A Star Wars Story, and he's the son of Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote all the good Star Wars movies.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Not to be confused with his brother, Jake Kasdan, who directed Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
But I like him too, though, now.
I know, right? The Kasdan clan is doing well for themselves.
Generationally killing it, those Kasdans.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the perfect idea of the nepotism.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I like the perfect idea of the nepotism of Lawrence Kasdan, like, making a new Star Wars movie after 30 years and like, yeah, I'm restarting this new franchise and my fucking son can do the solo story.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's perfectly matched to skill.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, we'll
keep it in the family, but
you can write this one. Just, use my voice. You spend enough time with me, son.
You get the prequel spinoff.
Yeah. Your other brother, he's doing fine. He's doing those funny movies, those funny pictures.
He's doing those funny. He also Jake Kasdan also directed Orange County, which is a favorite of my wife's.
Yeah, Orange County's great.
Yeah, it is.
That's the Kasdans.
The Kasdans, man, they're doing great work.
Yeah.
So I really feel like we covered a lot tonight.
Yeah, I feel very good about this. I'm very happy about a lot of this stuff existing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is better than being just so sad that now I know that a thing that should not be is. This is the opposite of that.
What should not be?
I don't know, like Garfield and calzone tits? I mean, maybe that should be too. I'm not going to try to hate on Garfield. That's pretty
I think at the end of the day, who are we to judge?
True.
Beauty. Love it, darling. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good intro there, Zach. Oh, yeah.
I can't tell if you're doing like an Austin Powers thing or if you're doing Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
No, if I was doing Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, I'd be like, I feel like Bane and Buffalo Bill have so much in common. It's just like, what's the deal with your voice, dude? Is that why you are the way you are? Because you just had a weird voice?
Well, no, Buffalo Bill was the way he was because he had gender dysmorphia.
I know, but what an unflattering presentation of, people that are, not happy with their assigned gender. You don't have to make a dress out of women's skin, dude.
You get to, Andrew. It's a privilege, not a right.
As always, if you'd like to hear more of our stuff, go to fanfiction.show or anywhere else that you go to get your podcasts. Contact us at xandru@fanfiction.show. Our Twitter and Instagram are @fanfictionshow. And if you'd like to read any of these things or research them yourself, we talked about Puffs, the off-Broadway play by Matt Cox, Tag and Bink Are Dead by Kevin Rubio, Oedipus, Final Fantasy VII by VillainObsessedGir, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Undead by Meaganmadeafunny, and a few points of clarification and information. 100%, it was written by Sophocles. We were dumb. Sorry about that. Also, if you want to hear a really solid overview of the saga of Tag and Bink, go to Austin McConnell and his YouTube channel, Really Weird. And also, we'd like to make a general apology to Star Wars nerds for all the things we got wrong or spoke stupidly about. Though, if you don't have a pretty good constitution against us saying stupid stuff about things we don't know a lot about, then this probably is not the show for you. All right. Thank you so much again. We will be bringing out new content soon. Talk to you later.